A somber silence blanketed the council chamber as the live broadcast began. Humanity's first official encounter with the Galactic Empire had been strained, but tolerable until now. Diplomatic channels buzzed with tension in recent months, yet no one expected the horror that unfolded on screens worldwide. On every device capable of receiving transmissions, an alien figure clad in shimmering black armor addressed the universe with cold detachment. Behind him, a massive execution platform loomed, stark against the fiery skies of an alien world. "We are the Empire," the figure intoned, his voice a deep, resonating growl, translated into dozens of languages. "Disobedience is met with consequence. Let this serve as a reminder to all who dare defy us." The camera panned, revealing thousands of humans, bound and lined up in rows, their faces hollowed by fear. Gasps filled living rooms and public squares across Earth as the enormity of the scene became clear. 70,000 lives on the brink of annihilation. Families clutched each other, unable to look away. Governments scrambled, but there was no time to act. One by one, the condemned were vaporized by alien machinery, their bodies disintegrating in flashes of cold, clinical efficiency. On the outskirts of Washington, D.C., Major Samuel Carter clenched his fists as he watched from a dimly lit barracks. The smell of stale coffee hung in the air, though no one moved to pour another cup. Beside him, Lieutenant Maria Chung whispered, her voice trembling. 70,000 civilians. They didn't even give them a trial. Carter's jaw tightened. They didn't need one. To them, we're nothing more than pests. He turned to his team, a hardened group of Marines trained for situations just like this, though none had ever faced stakes so high. This isn't just a message for those rebels out there. This is a challenge. They think we'll roll over. "Do we have orders yet?" asked Corporal Malik Santos, his voice tinged with barely concealed rage. His hand gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. "Not yet," Carter replied. "But we will." In Geneva, the United Nations Security Council met in frantic session, debating their response. President Elena Marquez of the United States leaned forward, her fiery gaze directed at the room. "We cannot stand idly by and let this massacre go unanswered. They've shown the galaxy that human lives are worthless. If we let this slide, we're no better than accomplices." "And what do you propose?" asked Ambassador René Gauthier of France. "A declaration of war against a force that could wipe us out in a heartbeat." "We're already at war," Marquez snapped, her voice echoing through the chamber. "The only question is whether we fight back or accept extinction." A murmur swept through the assembly as screens in the room replayed the execution in haunting silence. Representatives from smaller nations nodded, some wiping tears from their eyes. The vote was close, but by dawn, humanity had resolved to act. While politicians debated, the people had already made up their minds. Across the globe, protests erupted, their chants unified: retaliate. Resist. Remember, in bustling cities and quiet villages alike, anger gave way to determination. Artists painted murals honoring the dead, while engineers and scientists worked tirelessly on untested hybrid technology derived from scraps of alien tech salvaged in the years since first contact. For Captain Evelyn Serrano, a brilliant aerospace engineer stationed at the Nevada facility known only as the Forge, the broadcast was a catalyst. She'd spent months perfecting the prototypes of Earth's first space-capable warships, codenamed Vanguard. Now, with the entire planet watching, she worked feverishly alongside her team, sparks flying from welding torches as they prepared the fleet for its inaugural mission. "We're underprepared," her assistant, Raj Patel, said, his voice thick with concern. "Even with the upgrades, we're sending men and women to their deaths." Evelyn paused, her grease-stained hand resting on the hull of the sleek, angular ship. "We don't have the luxury of waiting, Raj. If we don't act now, there won't be anyone left to save." Back in Washington, Carter received the orders he'd been anticipating and dreading. The Marines would lead the first strike, targeting an Empire facility known to house additional human captives. Carter's heart pounded as he briefed his team, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He met each Marine's gaze, his voice steady. This isn't just about rescuing prisoners or striking back. This is about sending a message. Humanity fights back. They think they've broken us. Let's prove them wrong. The team prepared in silence, the hum of alien tech hybrid weapons filling the barracks. Maria checked her gear, her hands steady despite the storm raging in her mind. Malik muttered a prayer under his breath, his face a mask of determination. Each Marine carried with them the memory of the broadcast, the faces of those lost etched into their thoughts. As the first wave of Vanguard ships roared to life, their engines lighting up the Nevada desert, the world held its breath. Evelyn stood on the platform, watching the fleet ascend. For the first time since the broadcast, a flicker of hope sparked in her chest. It was faint, fragile, but it was there. The broadcast had ended hours ago, but its echoes lingered in every corner of human consciousness. From the highest offices of power to the quietest family homes, one thought unified the species. The Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated Earth's resolve. The captive screams and the mocking laughter of the Empire's emissary were seared into memory, but they would not define the future. As Carter's ship pierced the atmosphere, his voice came over the comms, steady and resolute. This is for them, every single one of them. His team echoed his sentiment, their voices merging into a war cry. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's humiliation. Now, it would witness their fury. The silence aboard the Vanguard ship was deafening, broken only by the steady hum of its engines. Major Samuel Carter stood near the forward viewport, his gaze fixed on the massive planet looming ahead. Its surface was a patchwork of jagged ridges and sulfurous clouds, a hellish place that housed the Empire's execution facility. Every decision Carter had made since leaving Earth weighed on him, but there was no room for hesitation now. His team's objective was clear: infiltrate, rescue, and destroy. ETA 5 minutes, the pilot announced, her voice clipped but calm. The Marines behind Carter sat strapped into their seats, their faces obscured by the visors of their hybrid battle armor. The suits, a marvel of Earth's ingenuity, shimmered faintly as they adapted to the dim lighting. Each soldier checked their weapons in silence, the weight of their mission pressing down like a physical force. "Listen up," Carter said, turning to face them. His voice carried the edge of command, but beneath it was a raw urgency. "We're walking into the lion's den. There's no room for error. Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and remember who we're doing this for." Maria Chung nodded, gripping her rifle tightly. "They'll know humanity fights back," she said, her voice low but steady. Malik Santos smirked from across the compartment, the faintest hint of gallows humor in his tone. "Let's hope they don't hit harder than the sergeant's training drills." The ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere, streaks of orange and red fire licking its reinforced hull. Carter felt the familiar jolt of adrenaline as they descended, the distant flashes of enemy scanners briefly lighting up the screen. Their stealth technology was holding, but for how long? He didn't trust luck, only preparation. "Touchdown in 30, the pilot called out. The Marines rose in unison, each movement precise and practiced. Carter led the way to the drop ramp, his boots echoing on the metal floor. When the hatch opened, a blast of acrid air rushed in, carrying with it the sharp scent of sulfur. Below them stretched a barren expanse of jagged black rock, illuminated by the crimson glow of molten rivers. In the distance, the Empire's facility loomed like a monolithic scar against the horizon. They moved quickly, their suits' adaptive camouflage blending them into the terrain. Every step was calculated, every sound minimized. Carter's eyes swept over the landscape, his HUD highlighting potential threats and points of interest. They had rehearsed this mission 100 times, but the reality of it was far more visceral. The first checkpoint came into view, a pair of alien guards standing at a security tower. Their reptilian features glistened under the harsh, artificial lights. Carter raised a fist, signaling the team to halt. Maria moved forward silently, her sniper rifle already aligned. A soft pulse of energy, and the first guard crumpled. Malik took out the second before it could react. They pressed on, the massive structure growing closer with every step. Its walls were lined with pulsating lights that cast eerie shadows on the ground. Carter felt the tension in his team as they approached the entrance. They knew what waited inside. Thousands of humans, imprisoned, tortured, and awaiting the same fate as those in the broadcast. Failure wasn't an option. The facility's security grid was intricate, but not impervious. Maria worked quickly, her fingers flying over the control pad of an alien interface. "Almost there," she whispered, her brow furrowed in concentration. Malik stood guard, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. "Got it," Maria said, stepping back as the massive doors slid open. Beyond was a labyrinth of corridors, their walls smooth and gleaming, lit by an unearthly blue light. The air was thick and oppressive, a stark contrast to the cold determination that propelled the Marines forward. They encountered resistance almost immediately. Alien soldiers poured into the corridors, their weapons emitting high-pitched whines as they fired. Carter's team responded with precision, their hybrid rifles spitting out bursts of energy that cut through the enemy ranks. The cacophony of battle echoed through the halls, each explosion a reminder of the stakes. "Push forward," Carter yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. They moved as one, advancing steadily despite the onslaught. Maria took point, her sharp eyes picking off targets with lethal efficiency. Malik covered the rear, his heavy weapon laying down suppressive fire. The deeper they went, the more the horrors of the facility revealed themselves. Rows of cells lined the walls, each one holding a human captive. Emaciated faces pressed against the glass, their eyes hollow with despair. Carter's chest tightened at the sight, but he forced himself to stay focused. "Start freeing them," he ordered. Maria and Malik set to work, their tools slicing through the locks with practiced ease. The freed prisoners stumbled out, some weeping, others too numb to react. "You're safe now," Maria said softly, guiding a young woman to her feet. "Stick close to us, and we'll get you out." Alarms blared, and the Empire's response intensified. Reinforcements flooded the facility, their numbers overwhelming. The Marines fought with ferocity, their training and technology keeping them alive against impossible odds. Carter's mind raced as he assessed the situation. They couldn't hold this position for long. "We need to blow the core," he said, his voice grim. "Maria, get the charges set." "Malik, cover her. What about the prisoners?" Maria asked, glancing at the terrified crowd huddled behind them. "We'll get them out," Carter said, his jaw set. "But we can't leave this place standing." Maria nodded, her hands steady as she placed the explosives. Carter directed the freed prisoners toward an escape route, his heart pounding as the sound of enemy forces grew louder. Malik's weapon blazed, a wall of energy keeping the aliens at bay. The charges were set, and the team began their retreat. The facility shuddered as the first explosion detonated, a ripple of destruction tearing through its foundations. The freed prisoners stumbled through the escape route, guided by Carter and Maria. Malik brought up the rear, his weapon finally overheating as they burst into the open air. The alien facility erupted behind them, a massive fireball consuming it in an instant. Carter turned to see the flames licking the sky, his chest heaving with exertion. They had done it. Against all odds, they had struck a blow against the Empire. But the cost was heavy. Malik dropped to his knees, blood seeping through a crack in his armor. "Looks like I took one for the team," he said with a weak smile. "We're not leaving you," Carter said, gripping his shoulder. The Vanguard ship descended, its engines roaring as it prepared to extract them. As the ramp lowered, Carter helped Malik aboard, the remaining prisoners following. As they ascended into the stars, Carter looked back at the burning facility, his heart heavy but resolute. This was only the beginning. The Vanguard ship docked with Earth's orbital station amid a silence that felt heavier than the void outside. The surviving Marines disembarked, their movements deliberate but weary. Major Carter lingered at the airlock, his gaze fixed on the charred edges of Malik Santos's armor as medics whisked him away. The young Marine's weak grin as he was carried off the ship replayed in Carter's mind. It wasn't victory that weighed on him. It was the knowledge that they'd only scratched the surface of the Empire's dominance. On the station's observation deck, President Elena Marquez stood waiting, flanked by military and scientific advisors. Her sharp, unflinching eyes met Carter's as he approached. "Major," she said, her voice steady but tinged with an undertone of gratitude. "You brought them home. That's more than anyone dared to hope." Carter nodded, his expression grim. "Not all of them. And the Empire won't take this lightly." "We don't expect them to," Marquez replied, her gaze shifting to the viewport. The planet below turned slowly, a fragile blue sphere surrounded by the cold, infinite void. "But what you've done, it's awakened something. Humanity isn't the only species suffering under their rule. The galaxy is watching now." In the weeks that followed, the echoes of the Marines' daring strike reverberated across the cosmos. The broadcast of Earth's retaliation, deliberately leaked through captured Empire technology, spread to distant star systems. On planets enslaved by the Empire, whispers of rebellion grew louder. Carter watched the reports flood in with a mix of pride and apprehension. The spark of defiance they'd lit was catching, but it came with a price. The Empire's response was swift. Their fleets began massing on the outskirts of Earth's solar system, a relentless armada poised for retaliation. The warnings came as intercepted communications, cryptic but unmistakable. Earth's defiance would be extinguished. In Nevada's desert, Evelyn Serrano worked day and night at the forge. The Vanguard fleet had proven its potential, but the fight ahead demanded more. She stood beside a towering warship, the Resolute, its newly reinforced hull glinting under the harsh lights. "This isn't just a ship," she told Raj as they inspected its systems. "It's our chance to show the Empire what humanity is capable of." Raj glanced at the specifications, his brow furrowed. "It's impressive, but we'll need more than technology. We're outnumbered, outgunned. Then we'll outthink them," Evelyn replied. Her voice carried a fierce determination that left no room for doubt. "If they believe they can crush us with brute force, they'll learn just how wrong they are." The Forge's efforts were mirrored around the world. Nations pooled resources in an unprecedented display of unity, transforming Earth's orbit into a fortress. Massive defense platforms bristling with hybrid weaponry were constructed at breakneck speed. On the ground, soldiers trained relentlessly, their resolve hardened by the broadcast and the knowledge of what awaited if they failed. In the barracks, Carter's team regrouped. Malik, now recovering from his injuries, joined them via a holographic feed, his usual smirk tempered by the weight of their mission. "Looks like I'll be fighting from behind a desk for a while," he joked, though the fire in his eyes hadn't dimmed. "You all better make it worth it." Maria Chung leaned forward, her expression serious. "We will. This time, we're not just fighting for ourselves. The galaxy is counting on us." Carter nodded. "And we won't let them down?" The day the Empire's fleet arrived, the sky above Earth turned into a battlefield. Ships larger than cities emerged from hyperspace, their ominous silhouettes casting long shadows over the planet. The Empire's flagship, a monstrous construct bristling with weapons, broadcast a single message across all frequencies: submit or be annihilated. Marquez stood in the command center, her face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. She glanced at the incoming message, then turned to her advisors. "Send them our response," she said coolly. The reply was brief, transmitted in every language of Earth. "Come and see." The battle that followed was unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Waves of alien fighters descended, their energy weapons carving through Earth's orbital defenses. The Vanguard fleet, led by the Resolute, met them head-on. Evelyn monitored the engagement from the ship's bridge, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Divert power to the forward shields," she ordered. "We need to hold the line." Carter and his team were deployed to one of the orbital stations under siege. They moved with precision, their hybrid weapons cutting through alien boarding parties. The station shook with every impact, but the Marines held their ground. Carter's voice crackled over the comms, issuing orders with unshakable authority. "We're not giving them an inch. Push them back." Despite their ferocity, The Empire's numbers seemed endless. For every ship destroyed, two more took its place. On the surface, defense platforms fired massive bursts of energy into the void, striking enemy vessels with pinpoint accuracy. Still, the sheer scale of the assault threatened to overwhelm Earth's defenses. Evelyn's voice broke through the chaos, transmitted to all units. "We have one shot at this. The Resolute's primary weapon is ready, but we need to create an opening." Carter's heart pounded as he realized what she was asking. "You want us to clear a path for the Resolute? That's suicide." "It's our only chance," Evelyn replied. "If we don't take out their flagship, we lose everything." Carter glanced at his team, their faces set with determination. "You heard her," he said. "We make the path, no matter the cost." The final push was brutal. Carter's team led a coordinated assault on the Empire's forward fleet, drawing fire away from the Resolute. Maria's sniper rifle sang as she picked off targets with deadly precision, while Malik's holographic feed provided real-time intel. The orbital station trembled as explosions erupted around them, but they pressed on. On the bridge of the Resolute, Evelyn watched as the path cleared. Her hands were steady as she gave the order. "Fire!" A blinding beam of energy lanced from the ship, tearing through space and striking the Empire's flagship. The massive vessel shuddered, its defenses failing under the onslaught. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as the flagship erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, its debris scattering like dying stars. The remaining Empire ships faltered, their cohesion shattered. Earth's forces seized the moment, driving them back. Cheers erupted across the planet as the realization spread. Humanity had held the line. In the aftermath, Carter stood aboard the Resolute, staring out at the debris field. The cost had been staggering, but they had achieved the impossible. Evelyn joined him, her face streaked with soot but alight with resolve. "We proved we can fight back," she said softly. Carter nodded, though his eyes remained fixed on the void. "This isn't over. The Empire will come again." "Let them," Evelyn replied. "They've seen what we're capable of. And we're just getting started."